Hello everyone, today it's time for a new video and we're going to talk about 10 weird things that I came across at work. So I've been working in street lighting for quite a while now, 4 years. And in that time I've definitely come across some pretty weird, strange things. So I made a list and let's go over all of the weird things that I came across at work. And the first thing was a very big old column and very heavy, especially because it's made from very thick metal. I think the total the column weighs like around 200 kilograms. But for some reason someone managed to break it, as you can see on the picture. But the weird thing is that it was in a pathway, so I don't know how you can even manage to break. I guess it can happen if you crash into it with a car, but I wasn't allowed to get there with my car, so I don't really know how that happened. Maybe it was like a big lawnmower or something, but still very impressive. And up next, something that I also surprisingly come across quite often, and that's streetlight columns that aren't even connected to electricity. They probably thought it were some Bluetooth lanterns or something, I don't know. New wireless streetlights, unfortunately they haven't really discovered those yet. But the weird thing is that that column has been there for like 5 or 6 years, and for some reason no one ever bothered to even connect it to electricity. As you can see, there's just a wire going to the lantern itself and no wire coming from the ground or anything. Up next we're getting more into the dangerous territory here. So the lantern that's in front of us, an STS-203, I came across that had the unit outside of the fixture, which was just about to fall on the ground. But that's where it gets kind of weird, because at least in the city, one of the cities that I work in, there's 2 contractors. And we had a project in the part of the other contractor, but we're not allowed to just allowed to make the project, but not to do like maintenance on the streetlights. And a damaged streetlight, like on the picture, falls under maintenance. But it had been there for like a few days, and since it was about to fall on the ground, we still removed it. But it's weird that no one bothered to report it to the council or anything. Also, something I come across surprisingly often is, especially with aluminium streetlights, ones that broke underneath the ground without there even being visible damage on the column itself, which, as you can see on the picture, the column is perfectly fine, but it broke or snapped like 30 or 40 centimeters into the ground. And also this one was a very new lantern or column, so I don't really know how that happened. Maybe someone shook the column for a long time and it eventually snapped underneath the pressure or something. I don't really understand how this happened. And speaking about snapping columns, column can also snap because of all of the rust. And I think I made a YouTube short about this one actually, but here's a great example of a lantern that was about to fall over because it was so rusted that you can pretty much poke through it with a screwdriver, and it was just basically one push and the entire column fell over. So that was quite a dangerous thing, and we were actually lucky that the people that lived there were reported this to the council, because this really could have gone south if it fell on a car or a kid or anything. And I also made a streetlight vlog about the following thing, and I bet some of us collectors dream of having a streetlight just randomly falling over into the garden. But that actually happened to these people. The column fell on their entrance or going into the garden, and actually some of the parts of the fixture were actually inside the garden, which I couldn't remove unfortunately, because they were luckily not at home at that time. But again, that's also an example of an aluminium column that's very old, which I guess snapped because of a little bit of pressure, which this really isn't supposed to happen. And if it was on a very nice summer day, then maybe those people would have just sat in the garden and got a streetlight on their head. So again, also luckily that no one was injured here. Up next we probably have the most, or one of the most dangerous of them all. And I actually have two examples of this happening in the city center, where there's like as you can see in the pictures, a fixture hanging on to steel wired cables, which I think usually is a very safe way of putting up street lights. I mean, there's no real way of someone crashing into it. But for some reason, with one of the cases, the cable that was supposed to help the lantern snapped, and I basically just noticed it myself, because I found it weird that one of the fixtures was a lot lower than the others, but that was just the case of the cable snapping, and it was basically just hanging still on its own, the wiring of the lamp itself. And then the other is way more dangerous, and I actually think this could have gone seriously wrong. So this was actually in the middle of quite a big city in the Netherlands, like in the city center, and one of the bolts that is supposed to hold the wire that the fixture is hanging on came loose, or the building itself gave way. And then there's also one last example, which was the most dangerous of them all by far. Someone with a bucket truck, and no, not me or one of my colleagues, but someone that was kind of inexperienced with it, crashed into one of those wires that hang across the building, and actually almost took the entire wall with it. As you can see, the entire wall was just kind of bent, and which was very dangerous. Again, it was in a city center, and basically the wall could just collapse and the entire fixture would just smash into people or in the store window that was on the opposite side. Now it's time for a pretty unfortunate case. Probably one of the longest standing streetlight columns ever, because this column, the car managed to crash it in 24 hours after it being put up. So basically they installed the column, then a night went over it, and then in the morning a car already destroyed the entire column again. And considering there's a really expensive lantern on there as well, it's a big waste of money. And for the next one, I want to give my credits to Philips for creating a fixture that managed to survive a pretty extreme crash. So as you can see on the picture, someone crashed into a column, and there, leaning against a tree, there was still the fixture, which was completely intact, while the entire column was basically just destructed because of the crash. But the fixture still worked perfectly fine, survived, no scratches or anything, which really doesn't happen often. And lastly, we have the most extreme crash that I've ever been to yet, because it will probably occur more often. But there was someone crashed into a column, and they took the column with it until it was got stuck in a tree. And I think actually the column was probably stuck underneath their car or something, and they took it with it for almost 100 meters until it got stuck in the tree. But then again, this was also a very dangerous situation, because if it would have been windy that day, the column would probably fall again on the street, probably hurting more people. And that's all the 10 weird things that I came across at work. So want to thank you guys a lot for watching. Have a nice day, and see you in the next video.